Hello there. My name is Tommy Lee Cassidy. The YouTube channel of which you are watching is the Right Wave of Liberalism. I created a manifesto of the same kind. But today we discuss, can free speech survive cancel culture? Okay? So we need to expose this threat cancel culture poses to the freedom and open society, and defend the liberal right to offend. So, do you know a man named Graham Linehan or Kathleen Stock? Well, let's discuss. A man banned from Twitter for defending women. A philosophy professor forced to resign stating biological fact. This isn't Iran. This is Britain. Can free speech really survive in a country where truth gets you cancelled? Cancel culture isn't just a mob drama. It is a system of informal censorship, fueled by fear and enforced by institutions. How can we live in a society where one cannot just think and then speak, where liberty will then fall at the feet of the anguish of the mob, and we are to be seen as seen in what is right, and then to be fractured into what is unknown? How can someone in a society, in Britain, the foundation of modern liberalism, the foundation of the Gladstone, Smith, Mills, these ideologues that laid the foundation of who we are and into the nation of which we keep, would weep with such indignation? Where the rights of the few overwhelm the rights of the majority, in the elocution of what one can say is by definition the harmful insurrection of who we are, guised under protection. This ploy has been used across time and space, from the 1930s, across from fascism, Nazism, Stalinism, communism. Anyone who wants control always does so through fear, scrutiny, and above all, scrutinizing those that cause dissent, saying things of which to make the opposition of the argument mislaid or misfounded. We have an example purely recently, Peter Kyle naming Nigel Farage irrelevant to where you sit politically. To call a man that has issues with a bill, and a bill of any kind, is then labelled on the side of predators and paedophiles for the actions of those that have committed such actions, and to then have a politician who wishes to show how this, in his opinion, is wrong and then labelled at the harshest thing. Didn't Boris Johnson once upon a time, not a few years ago, say to Sir Keir Starmer that he could have helped and stopped the actions of Jimmy Savile, but chose not to. Right? He was branded in the press. He was branded across the 9 yards of our great nation, and rightly so. But yet, when it has come from the left in the modern day, or more accurately this supposed left, nothing gets spoken about it. Fascinating. But the interesting question is, what is cancel culture? And of course this is interpretations from myself, and myself alone. It isn't just criticism, right? It's not even just accountability. Cancel culture is when people are punished or silenced for, well, not for crimes, but for ideas, involves deplatforming, job loss, blacklisting, and social ostracization. And this is in the West that believes itself to be liberal still. Includes institutional compliance, human resources departments, publishers, broadcasters, universities. This is not freedom from consequences. It is the abolishment of consequence-free thinking. What have we become? We used to be strong in our opinions, strong of which no nation could ever repeal. We went into the Second World War in our liberal believing of freedoms that the Nazis were opposing. The war was framed to reclaim liberalism back into Europe. And what have we become? And if you don't believe that this is happening in Britain, let me give you a few examples. Graham Linehan, cancelled for criticising gender ideology, Twitter ban, career blacklisted, even police threats. He even quoted himself by saying, "I've lost everything," for saying women do not have penises. I cannot understand why such a man, a professor at a university, would be stricken. Kathleen Stock, represented academic, forced to resign after harassment from students and faculty. Her reviews were respectful, philosophical, grounded in biology, and still labelled as hate. Irrelevant of where you sit, or even irrelevant to whether Gary Linehan is a professor. I could have been wrong there, but the point still stands. This is happening in Britain. Our beautiful nation that was crafted on people that said the simple truth that we can do what we want to do and do what we want to believe. Right? Alison Bailey and Mail Forstaker. Again, sorry for pronunciations, I'm ridiculously English. Lost work for gender critical speech. Courts ruled their views were protected, but their reputational damage was already done. Nigel Biggar and Roger Scouter. Silence for traditional views of nationhood, culture, and empire. These are not extremists. They're professors, writers, feminists, comedians. Cancel culture doesn't care about credentials, it only cares about compliance. It's just like what happened with Rowling, the creator of Harry Potter. She stood her ground, her reputation damaged. And yet she believed so strongly in what she was believing, of which the majority of people in Britain believe that a man is a man and a woman is a woman. Maybe the fact is that I'm old-fashioned and that I'm of the working class in the north of England. But I believe so strongly in the fact that a woman has the right to be free, and so do men. In my humble opinion, trans rights is pointless, because whether you want to change your gender, which you can do in a liberal society, but then you can immediately backhand that society and expect them to believe what you believe. We don't do that with religion, well, at least for now. So why would we do it with ideology? The liberal defense of offensive speech brings in liberal philosophy to justify the right to offend. That's what I believe in, right? J.S. Mills, the particular evil of silencing expression is that it robs the human race. Mankind will forever be changed by this. Truth only thrives in a climate of open dissent. Without that, you get intellectual conformity. without truth, there is no liberty. The right to offend is, by definition, the right to offend. If no one is ever offended, then no one is ever true. Now the interesting question is, how does cancel culture weaken democratic democracy and society? Right? The long-term harm for individuals is immense. Intellectual self-censorship is increasing, which then therefore people stop speaking honestly. Education declines. Students hear only what is approved. Okay? Journalism becoming activism. No critical thought, only messaging. Politics narrows. Political discourse becomes fearful and bland. Britain's long tradition of satire, blunt speech, and fierce debate is under threat. We are slowly destroying the conditions that made Britain a place worth speaking in. The machinery that allows such actions and incentivize it behind it. Social media mob dynamics performance gives them performance outrage, and then it wants to pile it on. Institutional cowardice. Companies and universities fold quicker than fish out to sea. Ideological capture. Human resources departments punishing ideology. Safety over free inquiry. And censorship disguised as compassion, weaponizing victimhood culture. It's not justice, it's about control. It's cultural, ideological, and reputational. Because what happens here is that the only people who are left are those that believe themselves to be strong. And yet the left is attacking itself, and more specifically, the ultra-left, the left of which is not the true left. We need to take back the true left of classic libertarianism, of which hasn't been seen in Britain since before the 2000s. It is time we return back to a sense of normalcy and common sense, because that is who we are. Right? We need to, allow me to conclude with a principled call to courage and clarity, as free speech is worth the risk. Free speech means someone will always be offended. Everyone will always be offended by what is to be said, right? But suppressing offense does not create peace. It creates dishonesty and fear. Cancel culture punishes the brave and rewards the conformist. If you're not prepared to defend speech you hate, you're not defending speech at all. Right? This is what it is. That was either done by Orwell or Hitchens, but the point remains here. I don't agree with what the modern left is saying, but I will damn well support their right to say it, as long as they don't impede in my own. Britain was once the home of fierce debate, free minds, unfiltered comedy. We can be that nation again, but only if we stop being afraid to speak. God bless. Good night, and of course, God save the King, because that is who we are, and always will be. Not because we must, but because we